Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to Play On Con. We are actually not at Play On
Yay.
Con. Otherwise, we would not be drinking coffee. There'd be something else in our hands right now, and we'd probably all be in the pool gaming. Jealous of everyone who's getting to game in the pool today. I am Andrew Greenberg, Executive Director of the Georgia Game Developers Association. Very happy to have this collaboration with both the Indie Cluster and PlayOnCon, and now also with Cameron Dale Audio, with Hiccup Interactive, and with the Vertical Shift VR game. Uh, One of the most interesting parts of game development is the playing of the games, which frankly is business when you're play testing and it breaks on you. Not that mine ever do that repeatedly and ad infinitum, but it might happen. So, all of you Play On Con folks, we know what crazy gamers you are. I mean, what dedicated gamers you are, and we all want to see the games we play be even better. While we're going to focus on video games in this one, everything we talk about also applies to tabletop games. And in fact, I think I met Karen Williams, our representative of Hiccup Interactive in the IGD Atlanta, when she was playtesting a board game. So, loving to have that conversation about tabletop, video games, and so forth. Remember to join us again tomorrow when I'll have to double check the time. I believe it is 4 Eastern, 3 Central, when we will be having an intro to Unity 3D for everyone who wants to learn to make their own games. And I will be streaming again at 8 p.m. tomorrow night Eastern, showing off how to design the middle part of strategy games. But you're here to learn how to test games and make them better. And Ron is the expert on making games great. So let's turn it over to Ron Jones with the Indie Cluster, Tripwire Interactive, and far too many hats than he cares to talk about. Ron, take it away.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Andrew. Thank you so much to the GDDA and PlayOnCon. I This isn't about me. We're not going to go down the hats of things that I do or did or think I do well. So we'll just get right into it, right? So, as mentioned, my name is Ron Jones. I go by Ron Jones, the artist. I am the founder and CEO of Indie Cluster, which this panel is sponsored by. And we have a great list of panelists for you. First, a little bit of information on the cluster. If you don't know, the Indie Cluster is an organization. It's a platform for independent game developers. We actually give support, QA support, press kit access, social media management, a lot of basically network and family type spaces that we love to offer to independent game developers nationwide and hopefully soon worldwide. So if you make any games, if you like playing any games, and if you just want to be a part of that family, come check us out. So with that, a lot of things we do now, we've learned to pivot with everybody quarantining and at home and everything like that. One of the biggest things that game developers kind of missed out on 2020 was the in-person experience of people playing their games. And that was really, it was crucial at the time, but like I don't think we really understood like how that or incremental that was part of our game development process. So we've kind of made a pivot towards trying to supplement some of that virtually, as in kind of starting a Twitch channel to play test some people's games and doing a little bit of QA support behind the scenes. But we'll talk a little bit about that later on. But part of our initiative is really just to kind of educate or help educate others on just being better testers. So we're really excited about this opportunity to talk to you all. So I will let our panelists introduce themselves. If whoever wants to start first, maybe Cameron.
Sure. Hello, I am Cameron. I am QA lead with Indie Cluster, and I also do sound design. Hello.
Karen.
Hi, I am Karen Williams. I am the chair of the IGDA as well as the head of Hiccup Interactive. I do development.
Awesome. And Sean?
My name is Sean Fieser. I am a lead developer for Vertical Shift, an independent virtual reality sport, and I also worked for Cartoon Network and Quality Assurance.
Awesome. All right, like I said, a lot of experience up here. You guys are witnessing right now. So we're gonna just start things off. First question is, where do you test games, and how can others get into it? I guess I can go first. So it was mentioned a couple of ways that that we test games now. I test games on Twitch. As we mentioned, we started a Monday night playtest. Every Monday night, I either jump on itch.io to playtest the latest Game Jam games that was created, because I really fell in love with that community, because most of those developers are really looking for critical feedback, and not necessarily looking to win anything or looking to even really sell their games. But I think that feedback as a developer, that's something that we connected to as an organization. So that's really where I've been kind of spending my free time. At least my day job is working for Tripwire Interactive as a QA tester. So I get I guess both parts of that experience, of that QA experience, being able to kind of play from that perspective, kind of the same game. We've been working on the same game for about 2 years now, or I have. Chivalry 2 actually just came out. That's a project that I've been on. So I've been working on that, and I kind of get to work on some itch games, or even local playtest or local game developers, or even online game developers. We definitely extend that invitation to hit us up so we can play their game. We actually have been able to do that and provide pretty crucial feedback for some developers. So that's definitely an opportunity, and I love taking advantage of that. I think when people think playtesting games, or if they might start getting into it, they don't necessarily know that every game out there, chances are they want some feedback. Whether they have a forum that you can write up some bugs for them for, or just join their Discord server and kind of start pitching in your free time here and there. It really takes kind of a paradigm shift to understand the difference between playing a game and playing a game to find certain issues or to work out certain bugs. So beta testers already kind of play with that a little bit, because you're kind of, it's a beta is kind of like a case study, right? People sign up, and there's metrics, or there's supposed to be metrics that measure certain things. But also, like I mentioned before, game jams, especially the ones I've seen online on itch, a lot of those game jams offer a day or a week after the jam is over for people to leave reviews and to even score certain games. So I definitely recommend anybody that's wanting to kind of jump into that, just hop on itch.io and search for the latest game jam. That's a great opportunity. As well as any early access games or any games that's in production right now. And I'll probably save our shout outs until afterward to all our local games that are in early access, but that's definitely an opportunity for all you guys. And so on my screen, it goes Cameron, Karen, and Sean. So I guess we can go in that order.
Sure. What was the question again?
Sorry, I was speaking way too long.
All good.
So where do you test games now, and how can others get into it?
Okay. Yeah. So I know there are a lot of cons going on, and that there's game booths and stuff set up at cons. I have primarily only been doing it online, at places like itch or for game jams. But for getting started, the way that I got into it was basically just looking at videos online of, some, techniques, ways to go about it, ways to think about it, and then also connecting with people in the community like Ron to get help and guidance on things you can do, techniques that you can use as well. So yeah, one of my things just for starting to do it is to just do it, I guess, is to play games and see what kind of feedback you can give. I actually did a little bit of playtesting for Maneater from Tripwire, playing around and trying to find bugs there, and then just got practice doing bug reports in their bug report forum. And I think the QA people that work for these companies are definitely thankful for feedback that is constructive, because I feel like a lot of times people can treat bug report forums like customer support, just saying, hey, there's this problem, but without necessarily providing information. So I think for QA, that's definitely a big thing, is giving that information so that the devs have something to work with.
Absolutely.
Okay, so similar to what you guys said before, like I've done some playtesting on some of the games that I've seen on Twitch, but probably my biggest, like, I guess, outlet of doing playtesting is in between other devs that I know, groups that I've been in, things along those lines, and we'll kind of like exchange playtesting amongst our games and things along those lines, and try to give feedback not only as a regular player, but from whatever that our expertise is. So if someone's an artist, they might give us some art feedback, and me being a developer, programmer, stuff like that, might give, like, oh, I saw a bug and it seems like it does this, and giving as much information as we can. But having these forums does help a lot, even if they're like very basic questions. I've had experiences with some playtesting with my game is they focus a lot on the art when I was hoping for more gameplay things. So stuff like forums are very good with giving particular points that we wanted to focus on. So
Awesome.
I know with indie games, including Vertical Shift, a lot of QA testing is conducted through Discord communities. Like if you find a game where they're in active development and they're hosting a Discord, you can typically join that Discord, connect almost directly with the developers or whoever's managing their QA, and you can kind of get access to early releases and kind of submit feedback and issues through their Discord channels. And then in terms of larger studios, I would largely get into QA testing through the university I'm attending. I know high-res studios would pretty frequently put out requests for QA testers to come and play whatever they're building in their office, and invite people to come for a day and get to try the game out and then survey afterwards. So paying attention to university listings, and then also looking at Discord communities.
Awesome. All right, cool. So next question. How has your experience making games changed how you play them? And maybe we can actually go in the reverse order this time.
That means I have to talk twice. So making games drastically changes the way you play them, because now, I mean, first of all, a lot of the feedback you have, you kind of can see almost why those shortcomings are there. Like, kind of, you have like sympathy for the developers, but also, the entire perspective is true. You're looking at the game kind of through the lens of, I know where the nuts and bolts are, as opposed to just kind of seeing that experience completely immersed. I mean, you still get immersed. Don't get me wrong, but you kind of when you know where the seams. It certainly makes it a lot easier to find bugs, because you typically guess where the bugs would be based on what features you're looking at.
Right. Cool. Karen?
Like depending on what game that I'm testing for, like especially if it's for like a dev friend versus me just like going to game jams and giving whatever feedback that I can. If it's like someone that I know that's directly like heavily testing or they request it, I will intentionally try to break the game and do really weird stuff to either see like, you know, what weird players do weird stuff and keeping that in mind just to keep an eye on that. Whenever that I'm playing games, especially like I like a lot of like horror and suspense types of games, I really take note of atmospheric things or like music or certain spikes and things. And like, okay, maybe been kind of quiet for a while. I bet something's going to trigger after I cross this corner, and just kind of like testing those things. I do feel like I still get immersed within a game, but in a very different lens. Just kind of like I'm paying attention a lot more intimately to the little details and lighting changes and audio, and like maybe the controls are a little limiting in certain situations, and it kind of opens a different type of view to playing games, I feel like.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything they said is really great. I'm not a developer myself in the sense that I do not do programming. I have, you know, participated in a lot of game jams and been, you know, studied a little bit of C# and Unity and Unreal, enough to see some of what, like Sean was talking about, like the seams, I guess, where you can get into the nuts and bolts of it. But yeah, definitely just that perspective shift would, I think, be a big part of testing, seeing it maybe from the development, from the person making the game's standpoint, rather than as the player, the person consuming it, can help you get in the mindset of what can you do to make things not be right, I guess, because there's definitely an intended way for you to play the game. I think when you veer off of that intention is when you can start to find some weird stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you guys went first because y'all really kind of touched on everything that I really, you know, love about just playing, you know, games and even making games and going back and forth from that. So yeah, you know, I think we all have, you know, memories of growing up playing video games and, you know, just kind of being immersed in certain experiences. But once you kind of start, once you get a peek behind the curtains, it almost I don't know, it almost just maximizes your experience a little bit. And obviously not everything. I mean, because, you know, with any genre, like even filmmakers, some still enjoy watching other films that other people make. Some just like can't just because they know all the mistakes in it. But I'm happy to say that I still enjoy playing games, like Karen had mentioned, as far as just knowing that what I guess is popular or is common amongst some games, like what might be a trigger or anything like that, or what to look for. I think it definitely helps, and also us being, you know, making games, we kind of have in the back of my mind, oh, they went this route, well, I would have did it this, I'll make a note for next time I'll make a game, kind of thing. But I think that experience really allows you to have a window into what could be the issue, because you know how difficult a situation might be. You almost know how, you know, certain physics engines work. You know that somewhere, somehow, the sound that you just heard got triggered. You don't know if it was something you touched or something like this. And then just like reiterating or going through the same level, it's almost like even a new experience, because it's almost like you're solving a puzzle. So yeah, I really like that the aspect of it, it could also kind of be kind of addicting or like compulsive. Whereas like it's just like how I test games. I'll oftentimes just ad hoc, and I'm just like I get lost in whatever, and I just poke around and see if I can break something. So I think it definitely adds to the experience.
I also kind of feel like you can see the love of the creators of the game with certain little things that they kind of put into your nooks and crannies just in case somebody trips over this side or this ties over to that. And it's just like,
yeah, absolutely. And even in that, I think it actually makes those special, even indie games, even AAA games that like do something unique, something that you never really seen before, because you know how difficult it is. You know why people go a certain route. So when you see something unique and you see something that feels different than you've ever experienced, I think it's really amazing. So next question. Why is giving good feedback so crucial to a game developer? And what kind of feedback is the best? Cool. So I guess I can go first. I think what Sean just mentioned about the developer like being like knowing the developer and knowing that somebody made it. I think you touched on this. Knowing somebody made it and kind of trying to figure out what they were doing and why they went a certain route, I think is incredibly like important, but also like it's valuable to try to find out what they were trying to do versus what you wanted or what you expected. And in that, I think the crucial feedback is more so kind of speaking their language, if you will, and not just like complaining about, oh, I can't do this, or I can't jump as high as I want to jump, or this button, or I'm not this gun isn't shooting fast enough, the game's trash. It's like it's not, you know what I'm saying. So I think it does require some practice, I will say, if you're not a developer especially, to learn kind of everything we just mentioned. It is a different experience if you know kind of the inner workings, but if you don't, just understanding that game development, games are an art form. These people are literally like putting their heart into these projects. These are their babies. This is something that they're making for themselves, but they want just they're open for your experience, and that's something that takes a lot to for a individual, for a creative to like be open to. So knowing how to not hold their hand, but knowing how to like be constructively critically constructive. One of those terms, I messed that up, but I think that's probably the best way that you can the best way that you can give someone feedback is learning how to translate what you are feeling into their language.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's one of the biggest things when I started researching how to do game testing in a productive way. That's one of the big things, is that strong communication, being able to speak in a way, or write up reports in a way that the developer can understand what you're trying to say. And also, like you're saying, it's art. A lot of people have put hours and hours and hours into their work, so to not just like destroy their hopes and dreams and like make it feel like it's terrible. Yeah, in terms of feedback, I think knowing what kind of feedback the developer is looking for is a big thing. Like Karen was mentioning earlier, having those guided surveys definitely really helps in that sense, because if you're getting feedback about your gun not shooting fast enough, but you're really looking for, maybe specific bugs or like physics bugs or something, then it won't be as helpful. So just having those different classes of information like usability feedback or, graphics bugs, just being directed in what kind of feedback that you are going to give, I think is super helpful in giving good feedback.
I think a big thing is this, a lot of the information that you want to provide, kind of give a why, I feel like helps a lot. I know that for sure, like, people are like, oh, well, if you're making a game and I don't like it, then, like Ron was saying, oh, the game is trash. So, like, if you feel like the shooting should be faster or slower, like, why do you feel that way? Is it like, oh, I feel like the enemies are too quick and I don't have enough time to react? Or, give the context as to why you feel that way and not just a complaint or a cheer. If you like something, give a why. Because that kind of like also helps perhaps give the creator the point of view that maybe they themselves are kind of like gotten a little bit numb or blind to. Like a huge thing that developers have with creating their levels is that they end up making it too hard because they replay it over and over and over again. They keep upping the challenge. So explaining the context of whatever feedback that you're giving provides way more than just like, oh, this is a great game, I love it,
User-centered design is crucial and pivotal to game because in order for you to make a game,
John, you're breaking up a little bit. Do you mind starting over?
Absolutely. Can you hear me better?
A little bit better, yeah.
So feedback is important because user-centered design is crucial and pivotal to good game development. In order for you to make a game that is well-paced and intuitive, engaging, you almost need to be able to read the player's mind. And the only way to read someone's mind is if someone tells you what they're thinking. I think one of the best ways to get that kind of, well, surveys and questionnaires are certainly great and well recommended. They offer a lot of bias. Not want to hurt someone's feelings, you're saying things nice, but just getting like raw footage of someone playing your game is a great way to kind of get that unbiased insight into what they're thinking. You can see like where do they get stuck, where do they kind of stop doing what they're doing and go try something else, when do they get done playing the game? Like, what was the thing that made them kind of say, I'm kind of, I finished a level, I'm done, or was it, this boss killed me, I'm done? And kind of being able to review almost like their thought process in an unbiased gameplay.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely agree. I'm glad that you said that. I think that that kind of ties into something that we was kind of experimented, or at least something that we've learned when we started our Twitch channel. As I mentioned, that game developers, used going to events and watching people play their game for as part of the development cycle, right? Because they needed that feedback. Part of reading that feedback is watching them, seeing when they get excited, seeing if what they intended or like what paths they meant the player to go to, see if that was actually taken, see how long they got stuck, where their eyes kind of fell on the screen. So, and a lot of that was kind of missed, and at the time, it was obviously different than like giving surveys or just even people submitting videos. I think that the more data you can give to a developer, the better they can kind of understand the user. And so recording your video, recording your playthrough, you definitely get a sense of like timing on how long you're at one level or a stage, when do you jump, that kind of thing. Like you can understand kind of the learning process, or you can try to attempt to understand the learning process, but it might be vastly different if you actually get to watch that person play that experience. So what streaming on Twitch allowed us to do, or allowed the developers that made these games that we played to watch us or watch me kind of go through these experiences, to scream, to sit there kind of dumbfounded, to figure out if I was like stuck on either the tutorial screen or the words, or was it just the text, or did I just completely miss the corner of the screen? So maybe they need to like have something flashing or something like that, or if it was actually like a really good gameplay experience and I just wanted to sit there and just absorb myself into it, you know. So I think the more data a gamer can kind of give to the developer, can be transparent, I think it's more worth it. So for those that are, you know, doing that wants to do this and wants to do it kind of full time, or just, you know, lovingly, know that the more that you give, if you filling out a survey, whatever, you know, if you want to submit a video as well, that might get you some extra kudo points, or, you know, ask to kind of come in to play live. I think that definitely has a different impact than just filling out, you know, a questionnaire. So awesome. I'm like getting relaxed, like I don't have to read the next question. Yeah, I appreciate you guys' answers. So the next question is favorite techniques to break a game. Some fun stuff. All right, so and I think we're going reverse order this time. So Sean, you want to go ahead?
This was a term not coined by me. I learned at Cartoon Network, but it's called the little child test, and it's when you just kind of start randomly mashing all of the buttons and just trying to see what.
Right. That's awesome. I wouldn't even call that a child thing. I mean, I just get bored and just start doing stuff. Or you could call it a pet in your lap test or something. You know, that's cool.
It's it's largely just built on what. I mean, you develop something for expected interactions, but you also have to be able to expect unexpected interactions.
Exactly.
And you can lead to some really weird bugs, especially like blockers and soft locks. Just they're randomly pressing things.
Sometimes I would kind of try to do an action outside of the context of the action. Like, say if it's a turn-based game and outside of the turn-based situation, I can jump and do all these other things. So I try to do those things, or I try to select stuff and clicking here and clicking there, and like trying to do combo, pressing multiple buttons at the same time and seeing what happens. Also, kind of like if it's a shoot 'em up or something like that, I'll try to treat it like, oh, what if I just try to melee things, or play more defensively, like play against what the assumed play style would be. Like, how would the average player do it? And I just do some random stuff, like lots of jumping, and just like smashing buttons, but like also just like if, you know, the assumptions of like, oh, well, I want to try this special thing, and if it doesn't work, what happens when it happens, you know? So just try to play a different game while I'm playing the game.
Great point.
Yeah, I think it's for me, it's kind of dependent on the kind of game, the genre. In 3D games, definitely just trying to find like out of bounds is always fun. Like, how can I exploit the physics engine? But in general, I think you mentioned it earlier, ad hoc. That's usually. I feel like most bugs for me come up when I don't mean for anything to happen. So that's also where, you know, having that video rolling while you're playing is really good. Because it's like, okay, wait, what did I do? Why did this happen? and then trying to reproduce from there. So I would say ad hoc is a really good one for sure.
I want to add too, and that is just going backwards. I feel like no matter what game you do, if you go into a state and you try to go back to the state you came from, that state will always end up broken until you find that bug and then fix it. But like, if it's a menu, if it's a level, if it's literally anything, if you just go back, no one ever predicts the use case.
It's crazy how like simple of a concept that is, but like, you know, when you're developing something, like, okay, level 1 and then level 2 and then go this way, like, and it's like, why would you go backwards? The game is this way. But absolutely, that's a great point. Yeah, once again, you guys stole all of my answers. Like I said, I love ad hocing and everything. Like, the easiest thing for me to do is just like run around. Like Karen said, use the jump button. I'm just like jumping on everything, because collision boxes are like one of the first things that, like, you know if you should be here or not. The graphics start like disappearing and you start seeing some weird stuff that you're like, yeah, I don't know if I should be back here. It's like one of the more fun interactions with the game. And yeah, like playing it as it wasn't intended, or just like sitting there and like not following the rules, especially if there's like a narrator or something like that. Like I'm the first one, if I'm playing an RPG or something that like has dialogue boxes, I'm going to keep asking you until you run out of responses. I want to see how committed the developer was and how many responses they put to this one thing that I'm asking. So shout out to like games like Deadpool or a couple other ones that like had like an infinite amount of response. I'm like, yo, it was just for me. But yeah. So I think we hit most of the good ones. Well, Wes in the chat said to tab out of a lot of things. If you're playing like a PC game or something like that, definitely there's a lot of buttons on this keyboard. And oftentimes they do things that you might not expect. I still don't know what F9 does and F10 does. Oftentimes like F10 like kills you. There's a little tidbit for you guys. If y'all playing Chivalry 2 and someone says, and you say like, oh yeah, I'm having a great time or something like that, this game is fun, and somebody says it's F10, it's much more fun, it's gonna suicide you. All right, I'm just letting you know now, because I got caught with that, and I've seen a couple streamers get caught with that. I'm like, yo, savage. But
something that I would do with certain games is like try to either lose or be as chaotic as possible. So like trying to kill everybody, trying to like I want to pet all the animals or pick them up or just throw them, see what happens. Put items in weird places. Try to kill everybody. Like just see what ends up pivoting from just being chaotic and wild and trying to lose in like really aggressive ways.
Mm-hmm. And it was almost like I mentioned, as far as like each game is almost like a puzzle, right? If you understand the design or the mechanics of it, like it's bound to like have some area that that the system breaks down or the system doesn't work. So as a developer, you want to try to, say, okay, here's where the areas that need to be cleaned, or here's the corners that need to be cut. But I was playing this hamburger stacking game a couple of weeks ago. It was from a game jam, and I was intrigued. First of all, the concept, it was really interesting, but you had to like stack. You had to put an ingredient like next to the stack that you wanted to create, and it was an 8x8 grid. So obviously, knowing geometry and math and stuff breaks down if you keep messing with it like that. So I was curious as to if I can fill up all of the spaces before I actually am able to complete a stack with my ingredients. And we just did that while I was live, and I ended up breaking the game. I was like, yes, we did it. But obviously, I felt bad because I broke a game that I really liked. But in the end, I think stuff like that kind of helps and it's also kind of fun. And it was a game jam game, so it was done in 48 hours. So it's not like some of these things aren't known. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of things are known, or a lot of things developers don't have the time or the budget to actually kind of put in. So when you're given constructive feedback, know that some of these things that you might have said might be obvious. Like if you're playing a shooter and you can't see the gun or the bullets because of a bug, like you don't have a right to like curse out the developer because it's a terrible experience. It's like he can see the gun is missing too. Like try to get something else. You know what I'm saying? Work it out. But yeah, just take all that into consideration and just learn to love the experience. But all right. I think that was the last one for me. So
I wanted to ask Fucking Nuts question, which
Sure.
is how do you communicate this to the developer without the developer getting hurt? Now, I think that Sean raised a good point about just give them the steps to recreate. But really, I mean, when you're getting a lot of these, it gets kind of overwhelming. What are your thoughts on that? Throw it out to everybody.
Well, I will say that the emotional attachment is similar, well, isn't going to disappear even if you're in like a AAA studio or whatever like that. So everyone's going to love or have some kind of attachment to their work, or so. And QA has emotional attachment to their bugs or whatever. Like, hey, I found this. Like, you need to fix it. Don't get rid of it. Like, this is important. You know what I'm saying? Because you spent the time to look for it. So from the developer standpoint, yeah, it's the same thing. Like, this is your baby, and you made it. You designed it how you want it, and you can almost get upset when people don't play it properly. But I think that it's definitely needs to be in the developer's toolkit to be able to take that feedback and not necessarily be too sensitive about it, but try to understand, like try to understand why or what. I think we were mentioning earlier, like what what the player is actually going through, what they are actually meaning. We are going to be sensitive. I think it's both people's responsibility, or both people have the tools to be able to like communicate honestly, right? So I think that needs to be the focus or a goal in that scenario. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think one good approach, just like an overall kind of thought process thing, is maybe to go at it from the mindset of both the tester and the developer are working to make it a good experience for players in terms of accessibility and functionality. So if you can get that through in your communication, I think that would definitely help a lot.
I feel like the trying to stay like kind of objective with some of the stuff or neutral. Not necessarily that like giving not bad, but giving negative comments towards whatever that's happening isn't like viable. It's just that be conscious of like you putting too much of your personal feelings may detract from the information that you're trying to convey. So just kind of like, staying pretty like flat factual as far as like the sound is too low. I couldn't hear things and so on and so forth. And as far as like the offense on both sides, the developer kind of needs to be aware of the fact of like not every feedback that you get is necessarily going to be positive, and the playtester also needs to be aware of like not every suggestion is going to be pushed through in that way, and sometimes that can affect some playtesters like future opinions of the game. It's like, oh, well, I told you last time, and you never fixed this thing, and so like trying to stay relatively neutral with the way to present the information and not tacking on too many like personal, unrelated feelings to your response.
Um, ultimately, the most important is even if the feedback's a little slow, most likely just follow the
I can't
Sean,
really hear you.
yeah, we can't hear you at all, Sean. Sorry about that.
It's a very expensive laptop. Instead, I think especially even if you try to do a really good job of keeping it neutral, the developers have to fix it, so they're not going to be happy regardless. But ultimately, I think really keeping it objective, keeping it neutral, that's really big. Typically, I like to. Can you hear me?
Is it your mic?
Am I coming?
You said you're on a laptop, so is your mic like right there near your camera? Maybe you just need to speak loud enough. It doesn't look like Discord is picking up your
And
sound.
I keep facing towards the mic.
I
'Cause I
talk
think when you
very
turn
loud.
away.
Let me know if you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah, we heard all of that.
Awesome. I was saying objective, neutral, which I was saying is certainly key. I think typically when I try to issues, I try to separate the actual behavior experiencing from the behavior that I am experiencing. So that way, typically if you deliver those informations together, it comes off almost like you're telling the developer to do. Say, I was expecting it to work this way, but this is what happened. They have a very clear depiction of, okay, this is the feature that I have built. Like when they give the actual behavior, is this what I built correctly, or is this what I built incorrectly behavior? They can say, okay, they're experiencing what I built correctly, I like it, or they are experiencing what I built incorrectly, in which case I just need to fix my intent. So when you separate behavior and expected behavior, it can kind of help the developer the insight they need to take that.
Right. I think we got most of that. That's definitely a incredible point that I have seen people be able to like separate their emotions almost, because using expected and unexpected is less, I guess, less charging, if you will, or less it's your fault ish, than like saying like, oh, I want to do this, or the game isn't letting me do this, or this should be doing this. It's almost like it's saying, hey, I trying to be innocent in this, and what I was doing or what I was expecting is not what it's given me. So it's like either I expected wrong or the product is wrong. I definitely think that that kind of helps fists not being thrown. Yeah, and to piggyback on what Karen had mentioned, the developer, the developer should be practicing when it's time to have a playtest or people getting feedback to your game. The developer should be practicing to not communicate as best they can to the player in order to not bias them. Because that player feedback loop is very important to observe only until it's necessary to interject. And so that's something that the dev could work on, as well as the player, the gamer, working on as far as communicating using that terminology of expected and unexpected. So great answer, guys. So do we have another one for the chat, Andrew, or do we want to maybe we could maybe briefly mention? Okay, sure. Any specific question or?
So, let's get some thoughts, especially from Karen, since she's done tabletop game testing. How is that different from video game testing, and Anything particular you look out for either as a tester or as the dev?
Okay, so I don't know if maybe it's just because like I prefer programming, but like playtesting on with tabletop games is super chaotic. um, or it's kind of like really anxiety inducing for me. Because in some of the cases, like I'll hand them the rule book and I'll have them read the rule book, or I'll explain it once, and then I kind of have to be very hands off. And there's times when it comes to tabletop games where if there's like either a question that I haven't quite addressed, or the rules could be interpreted a different way, or they misinterpreted, people will just start making up their own rules for the game and just doing their own thing. And like I want to be like, stop! Like, this is not how you're supposed to do it. But at the same time, I'm kind of curious to see like what happens, like how does this play out, or so like the like bob and weave of just like, do I come in at this point? Do I not? Do I let this continue, or just like stop? This does this. Try it again. Like it's really anxiety inducing for me, because within the digital aspect, like you control all the rules a lot more like heavily. It's definitely a lot more up in the air, and sometimes at the opinion of the players how they want to do tabletop games. So creating like even just like extremely thorough rules, like they might misunderstand it or skip over it. So that can be really, really intense. But I will say the conversations after the game session has played out are like honestly really, really fulfilling, because like some people have their own ideas, they get really into it, or like they've developed strategies in different ways, and like sometimes the play testers will get really like charged up about like, oh, like this is da 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 da. And so that part is also very wholesome. So it's a little pro and con for me of just like super anxiety but nice relief at the end when I can hear what they thought and what they said, and me being like, well, you were supposed to do like this, but I kind of like what you figured out.
Yeah, that's interesting. That definitely makes sense. I'm almost curious if like having a session of here the rules, here how I want you to play and how I need you to play to detect these certain things. Do it that way, and then have another session of here are some basic rules and just like figure it out, or do what feels right. Because I definitely feel like board games and tabletop games do have that ability to almost like allow the player to be a part of how the game is played or what the game actually is. I mean, there's classic games like Monopoly, Uno, Spades. You could the people play it depending on like where they are in the regional. My family plays it differently than I know other people play it and stuff like that, and you could almost like get hurt if you play it some other type of way, and like so people take certain things very seriously, and it is interesting like how you have no idea, like you had no agency on what Monopoly is, but you're dedicated to playing it a certain way. So yeah,
it's beautiful chaos, but very chaotic. So if you're trying to get information to like round out your game a little more, or just kind of like have fun with this thingy maze, and of course pull how much you want to like lean in on like, please listen to my rules.
mm-hmm. Cool. And it seems like we're about to run out of time here before I guess get everybody to do some outros and some plugs. I just wanted to we mentioned a little bit on how all this kind of relates to if you're trying to like work professionally QA and whatnot, as far as using that experience. I definitely think all of that is applicable for your resume, or you looking for a job in that. I think whether it's a job for a AAA studio or a legit like I'll give you a paycheck studio, I think that documentation is very necessary. Learning about proper repro steps or reproduction steps, and just understanding what each studio really needs in each bug report, and being able to effectively produce that. I think that's really maybe one of the only differences, or the biggest differences from doing what we do just in our own time, playing our friends' game compared to doing it professionally.
All right, we had
And yeah,
we also had one very specific comment. Seems like Chad is in consensus that Cameron's
okay.
beard is epic, and I just thought it was pretty common for our folks. They're all talking about the guy's appearance, and Karen's being asked all the game dev questions. So, just the way it always goes here. All right, so go ahead and do your outros.
It is. I'll go ahead and let you guys go ahead and plug whatever you might want to plug. Go ahead. I'll shut up. Y'all's time.
I will plug Indie Cluster. I'm Cameron Dale. Good night.
I am Hiccup Interactive. Actually, it's about time for me to stream at 8 p.m. Eastern. So right after this, I'm going to be on twitch.tv/Hiccup Interactive. So join me on that. I'm essentially going to play through Dead Space and scream and talk about all the fun little things that I noticed of just oh, this might trigger a thing. So feel free to join that, or Hiccup Interactive on Facebook and Instagram, and Hiccup Interactive on Twitter.
All right. I'm Sean Fieser. I lead the development at Untitled Shift. If you said earlier, Discord communities are a great way if you want to get into playtesting. If you own an Oculus virtual reality headset, Vertical Shift is looking for beta right now. So you go to verticalshift.net/Discord. Join our community, and we will playtest all the time.
Awesome. For those that didn't hear, verticalshift.net/Discord.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Issues.
All good, all good. We definitely want to make sure we plug you. Most of you guys, well, all of you guys have really been a part of the Indie Cluster community as being alumni. So we are happy to be able to support y'all as y'all support us. So we definitely want to make sure, and I believe y'all are about to start another round of playtesting as well. So y'all make sure y'all join their Discord channel. So IndieCluster.com, like I mentioned at the top of the show, if you're any developer, if you love playing indie games, you want to see a whole host of beautiful indie games that could use your support, please come check those out and support us as we support them. We started our Twitch earlier this year, and we just made affiliate, which we are really proud of. We're going to try to keep going as we do more promos and more, I guess, just support, given a lot of that feedback that we talked about to developers. So if that's something that you want to help us in, we hope that you go give us a follow on Twitch and maybe even subscribe. You will be our best friends for life, and we promise. And how Indie Cluster got started, we actually started doing a lot of expo events and hosting, larger booths so these developers can actually have that physical space. And we're happy that that's actually starting back up now that the world is kind of opening back up. So Southern Fried Gaming Expo is going to be our first event that we're coming back on, and that's August 20th through the 22nd here in Atlanta. And everybody's invited to that. If you're a developer, please submit your game, because right now it is free for every submission. So, and that's a great way to come back to the world, I'll say. And just a quick shout out to some of the games that we have played recently on our Twitch channel that are a part of the Indie Cluster. Metacell Genesis arcade game, that was one of the games that we got a chance to play, as well as the Gardener and the Wild Vines. I believe both of those games are in early access right now. So just wanted to give them a quick shout out. And I don't know if anybody has any other projects in early access or beta or just anything like that, but we love all of y'all, and we love all of these games that y'all are making. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for joining us, and thanks again, GDA.
All right, great stuff. Thanks to all our panelists. Thanks to all of you at PlayOnCon. Have a great night tonight. Sorry I'm not there with you. Sorry we're all not there with you. Some of us will be at Southern Fried Gaming Expo in the not too distant future, where you'll get a chance to test some more games. And join us tomorrow, 3 Central, 4 Eastern, for your intro to Unity 3D. Wes, we love you. We miss you. We're sorry we don't all have masks on to put on to be Wes. But you all stay awesomely wonderful. And take care. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks.